Welcome, everyone. It's Lisa Norell, episode 62 of the Mindful Marketer Livestream. We're going to be covering the path from CMO to CEO with some very special guests today. So as we begin, know that this is probably one of the most popular topics of the 62 shows we have now produced with the help of Marissa Callie, my producer, and Toya. And so clearly many of you are curious to hear what our guests have to say. So make sure you leave your comments and your questions in the chat and tell us where you're from. We are just thrilled that you're here. So also know that if you get to dash off to the 4th of July celebrations a little early, you can always listen to the replay on LinkedIn or on your favorite podcast platform. So make sure you go to tinyurl.com/Lisa Norell, leave us a review, and enjoy the entirety of the show. If you scan your LinkedIn feed, and some of you may be following some well-branded CMOs, you'll notice how their posts generally focus and over-index on things like marketing spend, MarTech investments, and skills development. Yet the path to promotion or the path to CMO is not about that. It's about how you are also perceived by your stakeholders including your boss, your community, your customers, and your board of directors. So today we're going to answer some important questions. What does it really take to become a CEO? What is the best career path as we face an economic downturn here in the United States? And how do successful CEOs, like the ones you're about to meet, hire and coach their own CMOs? We're going to explore these very important questions today, and you better get ready to take some notes because we're going to go pretty quickly. Both Sonny and Kenny grew their careers in marketing, and within the past 12 months, they took the leap to CEO. So let me tell you a little bit about our guests, and we'll dive right in. Sonny Ganguly is the CEO of Clutch here in the Washington, D.C. area. Clutch is an online matching service that hosts over 240,000 B2B service providers. They have helped over 1 million business professionals choose the right partner for the right project. Sonny, prior to that, also co-founded Wedding Wire, a robust global online matrimonial marketplace. And Kenny Cushing joins us. He is a retired Air Force colonel in the reserves and joined NetCentrics as CEO in October of 2021. NetCentrics recently celebrated its 25-year anniversary in the government, defense, IT, and cybersecurity space. And he also has had stints with McKinsey and was a CMO of a division of General Dynamics. Now, you're probably wondering, do these guys have anything in common other than being CEOs? And the answer is absolutely. One is they have some roots in being CMOs and growing up in the world of marketing, but they also have attended Harvard. Both of them have attended programs at Harvard. And most importantly, they are proud fathers. So let's go on and welcome them to the virtual stage. Hi, Kenny. Hi, Sonny.
Hey, Lisa.
First of all, thanks for your bravery for showing up just a few hours before everyone leaves for the 4th of July holiday. I mean, that in itself is pretty admirable. So thank you for being here with me today.
Absolutely. I've been looking forward to it for a long time.
I have 3 kids, 5 and under, so this feels like a really good place to spend my time.
You both have 3 children, so this is where you go to get away from it all, perhaps?
Well, mine are I started a lot younger than Sonny, so I've got a 23, 21, and an 18-year-old. So
wow,
not as much chaos in the house right now.
Yes, well, we're glad you're here and there isn't so much chaos going on right now. I would love for you to share with us, if you would, something about your origin story. Like, how do you think you got to where you are and woke up one morning and said, you know, I love being a marketing leader, but I think I'm ready for something even bigger?
All right, Sonny, as promised, I'll take the first question. You know, I would tell everyone that's joined today, there isn't a blueprint, and you can't over-engineer your path to anywhere. And if you try to, I think you'll be wholly disappointed in taking that approach. My path to where I've been, this is my 3rd CEO stint, and my path has been very circuitous. I've been in the military, I've been management consulting, I've been in startup world, mid-tier, large. I've done executive roles, and I've been back in government. And you know, where I landed here at NetCentrics really was about my network opportunity and just doing the absolute best I can do in every single role. And when that opportunity presents itself, you're ready for it. So there isn't the blueprint that got me here.
Was there a moment you said, gosh, I do love marketing and I'm ready for something even bigger? I want to really step into a much bigger role with a higher stakes role.
For sure. So I'm a huge fan of marketing. I often don't think it gets the appreciation that it warrants in companies. My foray into marketing was in the startup world, and having to play that role, wear many hats in the startup role, where I was building a company from scratch and having to get it out there and brand it and do my own market analysis, so on and so forth. So there's certainly a lot in the marketing realm, all the way up to the CMO level. And I think the role itself varies by company, by industry. But in the end, it was really in my startup roles where I saw the value of the marketing role.
That's great. And so how about you, Sonny? When did you have that aha moment?
Yeah, so I think it goes back. So I went to school at Penn for undergrad, and I still remember I had 3 jobs coming out of Penn. I had a consulting job, I had an iBanking job, and I got a job doing what was brand management at Kraft Foods, and which paid half of what the other 2 did. But I went that route, and it was because I wanted to learn general management, be able to start to have some P&L responsibility as I started my career. And so I've had a path that has gone in different ways, similar to Kenny. And was a CMO for 12 and a half years. But I now feel like where I am today kind of brings me back to 2 decades ago of kind of like where I started. But I honestly, that decision there was probably the one that was probably the most impactful. But it all came from a place of wanting to learn the most versus trying to make the most. And I'm a firm believer, if you follow your passions, the rest will follow. And I did that a couple decades ago, and I still continue to try to live by that.
That's very inspiring. By the way, I want you to both know we have Toya here with us, who says she's really looking forward to our chat. And then Dorian is here saying, "Go Kenny." So we have fanboys and fangirls joining us today. Now, To get on a more serious note, there have been a lot of changes that we have been noticing in the B2C, across all types of go-to-market models, where nowadays there's so much more self-serve happening. Customers, according to a recent Gartner Group analysis, only invest somewhere between 5 and 7% of their total time wanting to talk with a salesperson during the buying cycle, right? So this creates a whole new structural challenge for CEOs trying to design the perfect organization, and a challenge on where marketing fits or doesn't fit. How much, now that you've been in your roles for, a whopping 7 to 9 months, right? How much is that testing your old beliefs or old systems of how you organize your teams and make marketing optimized?
Kenny, I'm happy to start. I think, again, it depends on the stage of the company, right? And so as we get a little bit later stage, we just start to specialize more, right? And often you'll have teams focused on many different things, but as you grow, and so we're actually going through this phase where we're starting to specialize and start to break out functions and make sure that we create the right experience. And I think it's about right-sizing it, but I honestly just genuinely feel like we always have to have that customer touch point, have to be able to converse with our service providers and just create a great customer experience. I get that maybe people don't want to talk on the phone or whatever it may be, but I think if we do it the right way, we can make that happen. But we're actually going through this phase of kind of readjusting kind of our teams and how we apply the time.
Yeah, Lisa, I would overlay what Sonny just said, kind of that maturation cycle over the industry as well. So looking at it from a government contracting perspective, especially on the services side of government contracting, not products, I think marketing is treated differently in that typically it's used more in a advertising, branding, strategic communications role. So at NetCentrics, yes, we are doing that with our Marcom team. But as we grow and mature ourselves, what I would like to see happen is the Marcom team gets on the leading edge and participate in the growth and strategy process, understanding markets, understanding where we should play and why, and doing the analytics around that and feeding that into our growth engine and our strategic process. So that's what I would like to see happen for us. And that is unusual for government contracting to have a Marcom team go integrate that way further up the vertical. So that's how I would approach it from a government contracting standpoint.
Yeah, it's very helpful. Very helpful. And as we see everyone evolve, emerging from the COVID cocoon, one of the things that seems to be much more important now is that third leg of the stool. I mean, the last two legs were creativity and analytics kind of living together, right? In that, however you structure your teams, but now purpose is becoming equally important. How are you addressing that in your respective organizations as part of your overall messaging and marketing mix?
I think purpose is critical. When I stepped in, one of the first things that I did is I actually changed our corporate vision. Why do we exist? And we landed on 3 words: secure our nation. It's the only reason why we exist. And so with that vision, lots of other functions and activities align to that vision, to include the Marcom team and how we brand ourselves externally and attract talent to NetCentrics. And of course, once they're in, how do we grow, develop, inculcate that vision in their head so that they live and breathe that every day? And that's a challenge. For sure, but that is the purpose for our company, and you have to be aligned to that and want to be a part of that.
Thank you.
Yeah. So as I think about those 3 legs, right? So if we think about analytics, we think about creativity and then purpose. I think the first two are clear of like this brand versus performance type world that we live in from a marketing standpoint. I'm very analytically driven. At the same time, I think we've probably over-indexed on pushing on that side. I still think creativity and gut from a marketing perspective is like super important. But the third one is actually really important, what Kenny mentioned, which is you've got to get the vision, the purpose, right? Like as I think about our employee engagement, right, the things that I really focus on are two, which is what's the purpose of our roles and how does that ladder to our overall strategic goals? And then the second is sense of accomplishment, that we feel like we are accomplishing as we go through that journey. So we're actually about to update our vision and mission because Kenny, I'd love to get it to 3 words if I could. But I think you got to get that right, because then the rest, like we're also going through strat planning right now. And unless we're clear on what the vision is, like all that stuff doesn't make sense, right? And so we're in the process of flipping the coin a little bit, but super excited about it. But I think to what Kenny said, you got to start there. And it's not just marketing, it's for all functions.
Yep.
Even if you're on the finance team, like you've got to figure out how your role ladders up through the company and why your role is impactful to the goals that we're driving towards.
Yes, one of the companies I'm advising right now. I met with their CMO recently, and they said, well, these are my top 3 goals. And all 3 of them were lead gen and demand gen related. And I pushed back and I said, have you gotten a new job? And they said, what do you mean? I said, are you chief revenue officer now? And they said, no, I'm chief marketing officer. And I said, well, what's your vision? What are you doing to bolster your brand, to attract great people based on your double-digit growth objectives? I don't see anything there. So they actually went back to the CEO and challenged them and said, I think I have the wrong goals, or at least they need to be readjusted and include some of these other creative and purpose-driven metrics that are missing.
Hey, Lisa, I'll share quickly one layer down below strategy that a framework we use here at NetCentrics that I've pulled from other organizations that I've been in. I think it's highly effective. So we have the 4 NetCentrics nodes, the 4 nodes, and that's people, delivery, growth, and eminence. And essentially, that is a framework by which each one of us, and then functionally and then corporately, we go, how do we drive improvements and goals across the 4 nodes? And at the beginning of the year, everyone has to come up with goals around how they're going to drive improvements in the people node, the growth node, how, even if you're in finance, how do you participate in the growth node? The delivery node, if you're in HR, how are you going to improve the delivery experience to our customers and deliver the absolute best of them day in and day out? And then eminence is what are you known for? What are you great at? You need to be great at something. And if so, how do you scale that across the company? And so everybody has goals tied to each one of those. And of course, what underpins that is our vision.
Yes, and those are really powerful. And what I like about those, Kenny, is there are 4 of them. It's easy to remember 4 things. It's not. I've visited way too many websites where they say, here are our 14 values. It's like, who's going to remember 14 values, right? Yeah. Sonny, you were going to say something.
Yeah, I was going to say, so we have 5 core values, which I'm trying to simplify just because I want every employee to be able to tell me exactly what all 5 are. The other thing, so Kenny, you've got those 4 nodes. Our business is a marketplace business, right? So I'm connecting buyer side with service provider side. So, right, any marketplace is about creating a flywheel. Mm-hmm. So I've got 6 sectors on the flywheel, which is where we focus our efforts and our strategy. And it's our guiding kind of principle as we go into 2023. But it's a mix of content, audience, value, monetization, attribution, and then underlying all of that is people.
Right. So the people for you is the rocket fuel.
Yeah, we can have good strategy, but success does not come without great people.
Agreed.
Yes. Tell us, by the way, now that you've been in your roles for over past 6 months, what is it about the role that surprised you for either for the better or for the worse?
So I was pleasantly surprised because I came in, right, and I didn't get a chance to meet everybody. But in my first month, I met every employee in our company. And I just been so pleasantly surprised of like the talent and the passion that we have. Like it's hard to actually see passion in a company, and like our company's just got a ton of it. And so that is like super pleasant. On the flip side, I would say coming in as a new person, don't know anyone, I've tried to push to get feedback for me personally and also for the company of like, how can I be doing better? And I continue to push. I don't get as much as I'd like, but that's one where it's like, what do you want to say to the new person coming in?
Yeah.
So the pleasantly surprised has been awesome people, great passion, lots of hard work. But the flip side is like coming in, you feel a little alone, and getting that feedback loop going takes some time.
Agree 100% with Sonny. I'll add, I came into NetCentrics in a turnaround situation, having to lead a full-on transformation, strategy, org, ops, you name it. It's a full-on transformation. And anyone who's ever led a transformation knows that many of them are unsuccessful, and they take a long time to take a foothold. And so I was pleasantly surprised at how much traction we gained in a short period of time, how much alignment we got across the company in such a short period of time, to where the transformation is probably a year and a half ahead of where I thought we would be in the first 8 months that I've been on the job.
18 months ahead of schedule?
I would say we're about 18 months ahead of schedule and where I thought we would be. That being said, there's certainly challenges, and this is, I think, mainly a more government contracting issue, in that a majority of our people, greater than 51%, are at customer sites. They are on contract serving a government customer, and it's very hard to connect with those individuals and to have the transformational efforts, the culture, and all that trickle down to them, because a lot of them tend to go native with the government customer. They serve the government customer day in and day out. That's where they sit. That's who they know. And so transformational efforts of this nature, while difficult, they can be exacerbated by the fact that a large chunk of your people aren't with the company. So that's an issue that we got to keep working on.
In a hybrid work environment.
Yes.
Yes. Now let's add that extra layer of complexity, right? Yeah. And it's fascinating to me to see how much time our marketing leaders and CEO clients are investing right now in team engagement and basic things like, how do we organize meetings differently? How do we design a meeting? How do we do our follow-ups for meetings?
How do we get rid of meetings?
And how do we get getting rid of meetings?
We just sent out a survey to the entire company because we use Comparably to understand kind of how our employees think about the company, and meetings was definitely lower on the list. So sent out a survey. Then I canceled a bunch of my meetings. I'm trying to reset as we go into the back half of the year, but I think it's super important, right? Like if we've got a lot of people in a meeting, right, there's a cost associated with that. So we've got to make sure that like there's a purpose going in and we are clear on kind of what the outcomes are of what we want to do. So it's very near and dear to me.
Yep, and one of the actions we took here, knowing that our schedules were replete with meetings, to skinny those down and be super focused, we instituted a concept called Think Thursdays. So from 12 o'clock on Thursdays, there can be no meetings of any kind, except we can't handle what the customer does, but there will be no meetings. And that time is for all of our people, teammates, to reflect, to work on things they haven't been able to touch for whatever reason, to think strategically. It's not a time to just kick back and do nothing. It's a time to truly reflect on your day, your week, so on and so forth. So that has helped significantly our people to be able to focus and really focus on what's important. Think Thursdays.
Think Thursdays. I love that. That is such a great idea. I mean, we cannot argue with, I'm sure, what both.
We should make a think on every day that ends in Y.
Absolutely. And, the Wallace model of creativity, which is so necessary for us to be innovators, to design the future for our lives and for our clients, is we need one of those 4 stages of creativity is that self-reflection and allowing our subconscious mind to process things. And when you're back-to-back Zoom meetings, there's no processing, right? It's all very robotic in nature. And Alexander, thank you so much for joining us today. He says he thinks that 6 values are hard enough to recall, right? Yeah, keep it to 4 or 5, right? Stay in that general vicinity. I think we also had a comment here from Janet. Thank you, Janet. She says, everybody is good at something. Janet, you'll have to tell us in the chat, what do you think you're good at? I would love to know that. And again, thank you all for your comments. Now,
the only thing that I would say to Janet's comment is everybody is good at something, but we can all be great at something as well. And we've just got to make sure that we find the right roles, the right paths for people, because there is a path to being great.
Agreed.
Speaking of great, talk to us about I've had the pleasure, by the way, of working with both of your marketing leaders. And I would love to know, in today's world, what does a great marketing leader look like? What are the qualities you're looking for versus perhaps 3 years ago?
So the one comment that I would have here, right? So if I think about marketing 10 years, 20 years ago, or today, the job stays the same, the tools change, right? We've got to get to the same outcome. Either we're building an audience, we're trying to go get customers, we're trying to build brand, we're trying to drive some performance. All of that's still the same. It's just that the tools, especially in the last 10 years, have changed pretty drastically. And I think what I look for in a marketing leader, and as we build out teams, is people that have the ability to adapt and be able to kind of learn, whether it be from a data specific angle or if it's a try, test, iterate, and how do we improve. But I think it's only going to involve more, right, in terms of where we get our audiences, how we find people. And so what I look for is the adaptability piece is probably the most important.
Sonny, I love what you said, because right before you joined us, when you were out, getting yourself ready for the show today, Kenny and Toya were asking me, well, what's something you've learned about producing 61 shows or 62 shows so far? And I said, I'm really glad I took that 2-month-long improv class, because I can adapt to anything. Yeah. Equipment failure, a guest not showing up, or something, right? So it's that adaptability and flexibility that has seen me through some of the tough moments we've all experienced. Kenny, go ahead. What were you going to say?
I'll just add one other thing, which is it's hard to find a marketer that can be great at everything, right? So whoever's in that position also has to kind of understand that how you build out the team, you've got to find talent to kind of focus on places where you may not be as strong.
Yeah.
Right? Marketing's so wide, you can't be the best brand, performance, purpose, all those 3 legs. It's not easy. And the best CMOs or heads of marketing are the ones I think realize that, and then they build the talent to make them better.
Yeah. Yeah, I would agree. Tools, comfortable with data, and adaptability critical for a marketing role, a senior marketing role, any level. I would add to that character traits. I think adaptability could be a character trait, but we have 3 very specific character traits here at NetCentrics that we recruit for. And typically people recruit for skill sets and certain experiences. We do not. I believe if we have the right character traits in all of us that we are truly going to be a high performing team. So number one is you're smart and intellectually curious. And so you have to be able to test for that and understand whether or not someone really is. They may look great on paper, but are they truly smart and intellectually curious? Two, they have to be a great problem solver. And they have to have the ability, the stamina to truly problem solve through hard problems. And that's where a lot of people, I think, start to taper off, is the stamina and the problem solving process. And then three, you have to be motivated. It doesn't mean you have to be an extrovert. You can be an introvert, but you just have to be motivated. And if you have those three character traits, and you know that every one of your teammates has those are the character traits that will lead to a high performing team. And I use, whether you're think of your most high performing teams on the planet, a Navy SEAL team, a class of Top Gun graduates, whatever it may be, they all share the same character traits that's then bolstered or complemented by specific trainings and experiences for sure. But it's those character traits that when one man goes down, one woman goes down, because they know their teammates share those same traits, that are intellectually curious, great problem solvers, and motivated, they can pick up the slack, they can solve that problem, they can advance the ball always.
It's very inspiring. And it also widens the scope of possibility for you in the hiring process, Kenny.
Yes.
Which is great. So when you couple that with, we're hybrid and you don't all need to be within 30 minutes of Washington, D.C., you now have a panoply of great talent from which to choose.
I agree.
Which is wonderful. I also want to say thank you and shout out to Jamie Beth in Florida, who says, I agree about being great. She says, it's the strengths-based leadership model. So yes, strengths-based leadership is a great concept. And then Janet came back and put a comment here as well and said, I am great at helping people find they're good at something. So yes, Janet and I are kindred spirits. We are, my job is to help people find those superpowers as well as a coach and leverage them to the hilt. I just met with a CMO who is doing a great job in his role and knows, actually, Sonny, he is actually very talented in a number of marketing skills. But what he wasn't doing was telling people about what they've accomplished in the company. So they were just focusing on skills. The perception of that leader was kind of hiding under a rock because nobody knew all the things they were knocking off, right? So I said, you need to start working on leadership and board perception as part of your skill set. Because if you don't toot your own horn, there is no music. So yes, thank you, Janet. Again, we're hitting the bewitching hour already, and I'm sad about that because this is a fantastic conversation. As we wrap up some of our time together, I would love to know, who inspires you, Kenny? Who's a mentor or a leader that has really given you inspiration to move forward and grow?
Tough question to answer. I don't know that it's really hard to pinpoint one person, but being put on the spot, I would say for me, I really look up to Colin Powell for a wide variety of reasons. I've been blessed to be mentored by Colin Powell when he was a Secretary of State. I've read his books, his memoirs. I just look at where he came from, what he grew into, what he could have been had he decided to throw his hat in the ring, and his leadership lessons for me really stick. So if you haven't read his book, you definitely should.
Thank you. How about you, Sonny?
Yeah. So I'm gonna go back because I co-founded a company with a couple other people almost 16 years ago, and my co-founder, who's the CEO, we go with him, which is Tim Chi. And we were in the trenches from 16 years ago, and we grew this company, my prior company, to about 2,000 people and global. But Tim has always been able to find a way to get people aligned on a vision, drive passion. But I think the thing that I admire the most about him is he's just, if I could tell you, the most humble leader there is. And so it's something that I just think about as I think about my next stages. I learned a lot in the last 16 years. And so Tim, for me.
Shout out to Tim. Let's make sure he gets a copy of this recording. And Kenny, I'm not sure what we can do to channel our inner Colin Powell right now, but he is still in our hearts, right? Well, it has been such a delight. And I know how people can find you. I know you both visit LinkedIn often. And Marissa will also put the links to there's your websites there, NetCentrics.com and Clutch.co. And make sure both of you check the chat after the show, because we have some fanboys and fangirls leaving comments for you directly. Thank you both for joining us on this holiday weekend as people navigate this new precarious path from CMO to CEO. And please come back again.
Yeah, Lisa, if I could, I would just say for the audience, I very much enjoy the mentorship role, or just being able to be a sounding board. So please connect with me on LinkedIn and feel free to shoot questions and establish a relationship.
Thank you so much. And Sonny.
Likewise.
Delighted to do that.
4th of July weekend ahead. Hope everybody gets a little bit of time to rest, relax.
Yes.
It's been a busy first half of this year.
Yes.
It certainly has for all of us. So yes, thank you, Kenny and Sonny, so much.
Thank you.
So, mindful moments. I take a couple of things away from this. This is part of the tradition of the Mindful Marketer live stream. Number one is, if you are a CMO or a CEO, make sure your vision is as succinct as possible. Kenny got it down to 3 words. Number two, if you are building your core values, look at character as a place to give you some hints on what makes your company so strong, and maintain a list of values that is no more than 4 or 5 so people can remember them. Well, we went through an awful lot today. Thank you all for being here. Before you leave, I have some very exciting announcements. We're going to be back here for episode 63 on I believe it's August 5th, Friday, August 5th at 1:30 p.m. Please come back, because we're going to be sitting down with the TEO, Seth Goldman, former co-founder of Honest Tea, and now the CEO of Eat the Change and Plant Restaurants. We're going to talk about how you build a conscious company. Near and dear to Lisa's heart as a mindful marketer. How do you do things consciously? You just heard from 2 other CEOs who know that formula. And finally, would be remiss if I didn't tell you we are almost full for the CMO's Leading Innovation Conference coming up in November in beautiful Charleston, South Carolina, where we're going to take some of the concepts that you heard today and supercharge them with a lineup of great CEOs and CMOs from a variety of industries, helping you navigate the growth curves ahead in the downturn of the economy. So if you haven't registered yet and you are a senior marketing leader or CEO, visit the link here, click 2022 at .eventbrite.com. And with that, my friends, make it a safe 4th of July holiday. And let's all be grateful and protective of our delicate democracy.